Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most fascinating, hidden, and honestly highly time-sensitive mechanics of global trade, the global flower industry. You might just see a beautiful, perfect bouquet sitting on your dining room table, but behind those soft petals is a complex, high-speed logistical operation that is literally unlike anything else in the world.
Okay, let's dive into this. The cut flower industry isn't just some quaint local business. It is a massive, nearly $8 billion global empire. Actually, to put that into perspective, according to the Product Complexity Index, cut flowers are the 325th most traded product on Earth. It's a colossal economic engine spanning across continents. But here's the catch, and it is a massive one. The second you cut a flower, a biological clock starts ticking loudly. Tick-tock. These fresh-cut flowers are essentially on life support, taking up water through their stems, which means their average shelf life is just 5 to 8 days if you aren't pumping them full of preservatives. Moving millions of these highly perishable products around the globe before they literally die is an absolute logistical nightmare. So it really begs a massive question, doesn't it? How does a dying product sustain a multi-billion-dollar global empire? How in the world do we connect the delicate, fragile nature of a single flower with the cold, massive industrial scale required to transport it across oceans in just a matter of hours?
Well, to understand how we move all these dying flowers, we have to look at the historical kings of the trade, the Dutch. The Netherlands has been the center of this world for centuries. Way back in 1570, the very first tulip was exported from Turkey to the Netherlands, and it turned out their coastal sandy soils were just perfect for cultivation. It birthed an entire industry. Fast forward a bit to 1908, the first formal Dutch Horticultural Council was established. Then, in 1911, the Royal FloraHolland Cooperative was founded. And check this out. By 2016, this single cooperative traded a staggering 12.5 billion flowers and plants worldwide.
Section 1. The Dutch Auction Engine, the heart of the trade. This is the beating heart of the flower economy. Almost every single stem, whether it's from a domestic grower right there in the Netherlands or a foreign grower thousands of miles away, funnels directly through FloraHolland. They act as the central hub, the ultimate intermediary. They're storing, controlling, optioning, and distributing flowers to wholesalers, importers, and exporters so they can eventually reach retail sectors all over the globe. And this brilliantly illustrates just how jaw-dropping the physical reality of this operation is. FloraHolland's largest auction complex, Aalsmeer, spans nearly 2.5 million square meters. Inside, you've got 36 auction clocks, 8 bidding halls, and over 1,400 docks processing a relentless 6.6 million trolleys and containers every single day. Because the product dies so quickly, this whole operation has to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To move goods that fast, the auction process basically operates like a high-speed Wall Street stock exchange, but for perishable goods. There are two major pathways. First, you have the Connect flow, which handles pre-bought flowers and operates from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then you have the famous clock flow. This is a live, high-stakes auction of unbought flowers that kicks off right at 6 a.m. and runs relentlessly until every last trolley is sold. Traders can bid physically in the halls, or they can do it via remote buying. So from the grower to the trader, a flower essentially takes one of 4 specific pathways. A grower could go through the full auction, distribution, and financial settlement, all managed by FloraHolland. Or maybe they just use FloraHolland for distribution and settlement, completely skipping the auction. Sometimes they trade directly and literally just use the cooperative for the financial settlement side of things. And sure, some trade entirely outside the cooperative. But for the vast majority, FloraHolland is the indispensable middleman making the market function. But, the flower world is shifting beneath their feet. Which brings us to Section 2, the global market threat, shifting competitors. Now, what's really interesting about this is that between 2005 and 2015, a massive shift occurred. The Netherlands previously commanded an undisputed 50% of global exports, half the market. But in just 10 short years, that market leadership dropped to 43%. Globalization is drastically reshaping the playing field.
So where did that market share go? Equatorial nations are rapidly capturing it. Thanks to tremendous improvements in global logistics, countries like Colombia and Kenya can leverage their absolutely perfect climates to surge to 15% and 11% market shares, respectively. Ecuador and Ethiopia, they've climbed to 9% each. And in specific markets, like Japan, for example, Malaysia has actively displaced Dutch exports. These countries are now effectively exporting directly to major consumer markets, completely bypassing that Dutch hub. Naturally, the leadership at FloraHolland sees the writing on the wall. Their CEO, Lucas Vos, pointed out that digitalization is driving immense change. He even warned at a recent summit that unless they adapt their strategy, they face serious existential threats from massive digital giants like Amazon or Alibaba entering the space. It's a classic case of evolve or be overtaken. Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, Digital and Green Futures, a survival strategy. So, FloraHolland is deploying 3 major solutions to fight back against this fierce global competition and the resulting logistics bloat. Number 1, a massive push into a digital platform called FloraMondo. Number 2, the robotization of their physical warehouses. And number 3, a worldwide supply chain optimization program known as Flow. Let's break these down real quick. First step, FloraMondo. This is their online trading platform designed to offer direct, small-scale virtual purchases to buyers anywhere in the world, meaning buyers no longer need a physical presence at the auction clock. To kickstart adoption in early 2017, FloraHolland actually made direct sales on this platform free, and the result? Unbelievable. It caused an instant 40% growth in digital purchasing in just 4 weeks. Talk about a hit. But solving one problem quickly exposed another. Digital direct access naturally led to buyers placing much smaller order units. So suddenly those massive transport trolleys we talked about earlier, they were moving around half empty. This inefficiency drives up the logistics cost significantly, resulting in a much greater cost per individual flower stem. It's a huge operational hurdle. To fix this inefficiency, enter the robots. The cooperative is aggressively testing automated guided vehicles, basically robotic carts, in their Aalsmeer warehouse. The whole goal of this automation is to efficiently build and manage these smaller, more complex pallets and significantly lower their dependency on human labor. If this works, it will drastically improve productivity and bring those rising logistics costs right back down. Now, zooming out to the macro level, they've launched Flow. That stands for Floriculture Logistics Optimization Worldwide. It's this broad collaboration aiming to find deep structural efficiencies right across international borders. By working really closely with various chain partners, their ultimate goal is to cut overall supply chain costs by 15%, which, by the way, could save the industry an estimated 64 million euros. That is a real game changer. And finally, we absolutely cannot ignore the environmental factor. Consumers today are highly conscious of the environment and are actually willing to pay up to 15% more for sustainably grown flowers. In response, initiatives like the Floriculture Sustainability Initiative have set a super ambitious goal. They are pushing to ensure 90% of all flowers and plants traded by its members are grown and marketed sustainably by 2020. Which leaves us with this incredible, somewhat provocative thought to ponder. Consider for a second that a single rose grown in Kenya requires about 10 liters of water to produce. When you combine that massive water footprint with the immense global logistics chain, the cargo planes, the warehouse robots, the cold storage, and that 5 to 8 day ticking biological clock, what is the true environmental cost of your next floral gift? It's an incredible industry balancing unbelievable global scale with immense fragility. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the amazing systems that bring the world right to your doorstep.